We have a new project announcement sitting here behind me. Man, you're gonna wanna stick around because this is gonna be a long build. So this is like mesmerizing and it's coming all out. That's right, it's all coming out. So the $1 million question, what's going in the car? The heater core is leaking. I'll tell you this, it's loud. In fact, let me get it up in the air so you guys can see underneath the car. Nice little intro to Justin's 1990 Notch project. What's up guys, welcome back to the infamous project. We have a new project announcement sitting here behind me. If you follow me on Instagram, maybe you saw the video of it rolling up the other week. And this is Justin's 1990 Black Notch project. We don't have a name for it yet, so we're gonna have to come up with one. But this is an incredible notchback. Some of you guys who've been following me for a while would probably know how I feel about black notches, but new year, new opportunity, and fingers crossed we won't suffer the curse of the black notch on this one. So I've actually done work to this car in the past. I did a short little video swapping out the water pump and going over a few of the basics of the car. And guys, it's changed a lot since then. Nothing really visually. We're gonna go through everything in detail so you guys can get a better understanding of what the car is now, what the car was before Justin got it, and the direction that this car is gonna go, which it's kind of, some of you guys would be like, why? Why is he even gonna mess with that? Like, look under the engine bay. Who would wanna mess with that? Justin would wanna mess with that. If you've seen any of his other cars, you'd understand why he wants to mess with it. He's a modifier, he's a customizer. He matches his builds to his personality and his characteristics, which I absolutely love and respect so much. I know that there's a couple key people out there that just absolutely believe in this. Tom or Admiral is one of them. And guys, there's so many people out there that individualize / personalize their cars. And I think that's the thing that I love about this project so much. You can see, not everybody would love a steering wheel like that, for instance, but it doesn't matter. It's Justin's car, it's his build. It's a reflection of him and his personality. And I think that that is absolutely freaking awesome. So stick around guys, we're gonna go into full details on this 1990 Black Notch. And man, you're gonna wanna stick around because this is gonna be a long build. Let's just put it that way. So stick around, we'll get right into it. All right, guys, so this car is an ultra low mile, well, I shouldn't say ultra low mile, it's a low mile car. I wanna say we got 28,000 miles. The car is actually originally an Alaskan car, if you can believe it, that's right. It started its life at like the most northern part of the US that it possibly could. And there's not a spot of rust on this car, guys. It is super, super clean. It's exchanged hands a couple times over the years, however, ultimately ended up down here in Texas. Now, the mods were done around 2009, I believe, according to the paperwork, and ultimately really just consisted of some pretty cool, nostalgic well, what is now nostalgic, but cool at the time. We have trick flow heads, got the Kenny Bell Flowzilla blower on there, and it's actually customized. It's actually an intercooled Flowzilla setup. So this is like mesmerized. If you start trying to follow the piping and everything else, you could almost get confused and lost in terms of where the air is going. So first things first, the air is coming in just like it would factory style, right? So you gotta start off at a starting point. So in there somewhere would be an air filter. Coming in, got your mass airflow meter, coming through your throttle body, through your EGR plate, which the EGR is gone, and it's going into the backside of the blower. So it's feeding the blower the air that it needs. You have the rotors in the blower that are then actually forcing the air up this way. So for the lightning guys out there or the traditional root style blowers, normally this head unit would be like so, and kind of explains why the Kenny Bell is upside down, because in this case, we actually need to send the air up instead of down. So the air is coming up. Traditionally, it would come up and go down through here into your lower intake manifold and you'd be done. But in this case, there's a catch. You're gonna see there are 2 additional tubes on either side of this blower. Now, thankfully, I happen to have another Kenny Bell blower right here at my disposal. And you will see, same concept, you know, up through throttle body, EGR plate, backside of the blower, up through this, and down into the intake. And this is actually one of the very early style blowers that is meant to go on a stock lower intake manifold. The one that is in Justin's car takes the GT40 lower. So there's actually a number of different styles of this blower. So we're gonna go back to the other guy. We're gonna talk about why this was cut open and a pipe welded on, and why this was cut open and a pipe welded on. One really important thing with the GT40 lower setup is, did a lot of research, and my neighbor actually did the research, is that there's only a few GT40 lowers that will work with this setup. Believe it or not, there's a couple part numbers that the routing, or the positioning rather, of the way the upper intake would bolt on is actually offset by like 1/8 of an inch. And that 1/8 of an inch, if you have the wrong lower, is gonna make you throw belts because it doesn't put the snout in the right place with this pulley. So original Cobra lowers, the original GT40 lowers, the SN95 Cobra lowers, those guys will all work and place your Kenny Bell where it needs to be. Any of your Explorer lowers, I think Chinese, all that stuff are actually offset and they will not work with this blower, which is important to know because I believe these blowers are back on the market now. So going back to the intercool setup here, they've cut this side open and forcing air to go down through here, down in the front. You can see the pipe there, and there is an intercooler hiding down in there, which is completely discreet and pretty much unseen. Your piping comes up and around through here and ultimately giving you cool air to go down into your lower intake manifold. So pretty neat. The only question that I have, and I actually ran this by Gary from Castle Customs because he recently picked up a Kenny Bell. These things are like coming out of the woodwork, guys. And his was modified the same way that this one was. So be curious to know if the same gentleman, I believe out of Missouri, did these custom intercooled setups. I could be wrong, that's just kind of what I've heard. Now, you would think that if you're opening that up and opening this up, you want to force all the air to go through. So the question is there a block off plate here in this area? So that way it's forcing all the air to go this way and down through the intercooler and through, or is this still open on the inside and just sort of relying on the pressure of the boost to somehow, I guess, even itself out and result in a little bit more intercooled air than no intercooled air at all? So that's the big question that I have and the big unknown here. But that, regardless, is a super, super cool setup and it's coming all out. That's right, it's all coming out. So as far as we know, this is a stock short block. Don't even know if there's a camshaft in here. It's just the bolt-ons that you see and that I've explained, obviously a larger throttle body. The fuel system has been upgraded. Justin has actually upgraded the fuel system with Aeromotive rails, regulator, and there's an Aeromotive 1000 pump that's already been installed in the back to accommodate the new setup. Now we'll get into the new setup in a minute. So the reality here is that when this car was built, it was built, you know, with good intentions to make some pretty good power without opening things up too far. And I believe the dyno sheet was somewhere around 398 to the rear wheels. Now we don't know what tuning's done to the car. We don't know if there's a chip on the computer. We're gonna find that out when everything gets ripped apart. So what all has been done since Justin has owned it? Well, had to change the water pump because water pump gasket was leaking at the same time, upgraded to the Fluidyne radiator, kept the clutch fan set up and everything else at the time. And from there, the whole build stuff started snowballing. Once he had the car running right, and it is an AC car, he had the AC compressor in there. It's since come off, and we're gonna see if the car is gonna have AC again or if it's not gonna have AC again. I know it's not gonna have heat. He said the heater core is leaking. Surprise, surprise. So we're gonna have to do something about that heater core and make sure that any of the coolant that's dripped down onto the floorboard hopefully isn't pooling up down there. Last thing that we want is any corrosion. So we're gonna make sure that that's getting all dried out. So Justin didn't waste any time underneath the car, and I will get the car up in the air and showcase all of that to you. Got a full Maximum Motorsport grip suspension kit. So it's full K-member. All of the shocks and struts have been done. It's got the torque arm in the rear. He's got American Racing long tube headers, full custom exhaust. And in fact, he complains, he says he doesn't like the sound of wide open throttle out on the road, but when you start this thing up, it is one of the most unique, coolest sounding Foxes, at least I think. I'll start it up for you guys in a minute here, and you'll be able to give me your opinion. We'll see how well the camera does in terms of capturing it. I'll tell you this, it's loud and it's super aggressive, and I don't know, it's different, but in a good way, in my opinion. So first things first, let's start this thing up so you guys can hear it. All right, so I'm really hoping that the camera did its job in terms of capturing some of the audio on that. Again, just phenomenal. Long tubes always make things sound really, really good. Stainless makes things sound really good, but I believe he's actually got titanium from the mufflers back. I'm gonna have to double check on that. I believe he actually wants to go titanium the whole way. So I guess that sort of is a really good overview. Other than the fact he's done a couple little tweaks on the interior. So he's got this custom MPI steering wheel in here, which I think is sort of his trademark. He's got cool wheels in all of his cars. He's got a really badass Camaro, if you guys haven't seen it, or should I call it the Camaro? And Corbeau seats he's changed. I don't know if those are gonna be staying. I think he wants to do something with the door panels. As being a 90, the door panels have these removable inserts. So I believe he's gonna do something there, do the map pocket fix, gonna end up probably doing Bluetooth integration into the radio. Full Holley dash will be coming. The large screen, be removing the gauges on the A-pillar. And don't mind my Ron John towel, that's to make sure I haven't sat or leaned up on something and then sit and get his seat dirty. So this is an original paint car, other than the fact there's a cowl hood now. So the car presents beautifully for its miles and its age. We'll probably be doing a little bit of trim resto here, just getting these cleaned up and refurbished the way that they should be so that they can last a nice long time and not continue to get pitted. And well, we got a lot to do in the engine bay here. So just to give you guys an idea of the caliber, if you will, of this build, it's one of those that a nut and a bolt doesn't go unchanged. So we're gonna be pulling out this drive line, which is still on factory wiring. Like I said, stock short block. Maybe there's a cam hiding in here, we don't know. He's actually gonna go back and go through his paperwork, but he really doesn't remember there being a cam on there. He's got receipts for the heads, he's got receipts for the Flowzilla. However, the cam is sort of unknown. With that said, where the car idles and how it sounds, of course it's so loud, I do suspect that there is a cam in this motor. So we'll see. We're gonna try and find a really good home for this setup with the miles that are on it and for what this thing is. It's all coming out as one big package, right? Because what's going in is a complete turnkey package. There's still a factory T5 behind this. There's still a factory drive shaft behind it. The rear end has been built. I'm not sure what gears are in it, but the axles have been upgraded. It's already got disc brake on the rear. And again, the fuel system has been done, the suspension is done. So everything that we need in terms of supporting mods for what's gonna go into this car has been taken care of. So Justin reached out to Prestige probably a while ago. And of course, it's been challenging trying to get some of the parts. However, everything has finally come in, and I believe they're gonna run his new motor on the dyno this week, which means motor's gonna end up here real soon. So we gotta make room for the new home that motor is gonna have, which consists of a dart block, fully forged internals, 363, AFR heads, custom ground cam, and a Vortec YSI blower. Of course, there's gonna be a lot of supporting odds and ends to that, but we'll get into all the details once the motor shows up. A different beast altogether in terms of what's in the car now. And we're gonna be doing Terminator X, Scott Rod panels, gonna be riveting them in. We're not doing any engine bay shaving here. Gonna keep true to the car. He does want the bay cleaned up when the motor is out. We'll make sure that there's paint where paint needs to be, just to keep from any corrosion, keep for some consistency, so on and so forth. So we're gonna go through all of the parts that he has and the parts that he wants and get everything on order. So things like the mechanical clutch fan is gonna go. Perfect time to upgrade to a 3G alternator. Powder coat and clean up the power steering pump so that that's all pretty, because the rest of the motor is brand spanking new and is gonna have to look the part in the engine bay when everything is said and done. So TKX transmission, so that'll be able to take the power, upgraded drive shaft. We don't know if he's going aluminum or carbon fiber as of yet. And like I said, possibly swapping out the seats. We got the big Holley screen to put in the dash, and things like the headlights, those are gonna be popped out. He wants to get those all polished up. All the little tiny meticulous things. And the car, he already knows. He's like, the car's probably gonna be here for a while, because as we go through this, I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole, I'm gonna have more ideas. And guys, I don't mind it at all. I actually favor these longer, bigger style projects. So in conjunction with this, the Godzilla swapped Calypso notch, or soon to be Godzilla swapped, I should say. The heads are at Texas speed, getting ported out as we speak. So once we get all of that back, then the Team's EK member needs to show up, and we're gonna get going on that project. And then we have the 91 Titanium GT, which is sort of a return from race car back to the street car. And these three cars are gonna be the next focus for the little while here on the channel. So be sure to stay tuned for that. You'll notice that the Celine isn't in here. The 89 421, a dark shadow blue Celine. That car is actually sitting outside at the moment. And the twin turbo car isn't in here. It's actually in Houston right now, getting its final tuning done. So, and then there was three for the rest of the year. There's obviously some other stuff still in the pipeline. We got Jerry's 93 hatch, Coyote swap project, and there's a couple other things that'll be kind of in and out on the channel. But again, focuses are going to be on these top three projects going forward: Justin's Coupe, Calypso Godzilla, and the Titanium GT. So before I go pulling the motor out of this car, I do want to do a compression test on it, get all the numbers, making sure that we know what's here, because ultimately this guy is going to find a new home, and we want to make sure that whoever ends up with it knows exactly what the numbers are going to be. All right, guys, so we're playing in the trunk now. Got all of his Scott Rod panels and random miscellaneous stuff that are needed for some of the project here out. And he's got a tiny little battery hiding back there. I'm trying to find this wiring for the fuel pump here so that we can I'm hoping there's a fuse, because I didn't see one right off the battery. All right, this looks like something. So I'm gonna say if we go ahead and disconnect some power here, we should be good. Guys, we're sitting right at 160, which is great for cylinder number 1. So let's hope that all of our other cylinders are sitting somewhere around this mark. All right guys, so here's the scenario. The compression test came back reasonably okay, with the exception of cylinder number 5. So our highest point, 160 pounds of compression in cylinder number 1. Our lowest point, 140 pounds in cylinder number 5. So 20 points off is 4 points off of our 10% variance. Not the end of the world in reality. For me, I would say send it. However, I just want to see what could be the potential culprit here. If rocker lash, maybe not adjusted 100%, maybe there's a valve that just happens to not be fully closing all the way. Or if we put a teaspoon of oil down that cylinder, if the compression comes up, then I'm gonna be more suspicious that maybe a ring is letting a bit of air go by it. So I'm going to gently pour a little bit of oil down into that cylinder. We'll do the test again and we'll see if the compression comes up. All right, we are up to almost 155. So the oil down the cylinder did help, which means is there a little bit of blow by in that cylinder? Maybe, but guys, you gotta remember, there's still 140 pounds of pressure in there, which ultimately isn't that bad. So we had 160, so I'm gonna go from cylinder 1 to cylinder 8. 160, 156, 154, 151, 140, 150, 156, 156. And that 140 with a little bit of oil down there bumped itself up to 155. Thicker weight oil, maybe. We don't know what oil is running the car. Still plenty of life left in this motor and this setup. I would not be tearing this motor apart just based on that. That's just me. Some of you guys would argue and be like, oh no man, you gotta like re-ring it, re-bearing it, and then you just open up a whole can of worms. The reality is, you probably thrash on this thing. I've seen numbers with a lot greater variance and a lot worse perform for a really long time. And you just gotta ask yourself, what's worth doing versus what is not worth doing. So there we go. I had that glove on to give me a little bit more grip on the hose. You can see I've even got the air conditioning going in here today, guys. It's still hot. So there you have it, guys. Compression test is done. And will that be the last time that this car runs? I don't know. If I have to jam the plugs back in real quick or not. I really don't think I need to. I can probably just back it on this lift here, get it up in the air, and that'll be that. In fact, let me get it up in the air so you guys can see underneath the car. I know you guys want to see underneath it. All right, guys, so we are up in the air. And first things first, we can see that Maxim Motorsport K member. You can see the struts, coilover kit. Got those beautiful long tubes. And this exhaust, which is just awesome. Of course, the huge torque arm right here. The factory drive shaft, the ugliest piece of the underside of this car. You can see some of our aeromotive system here. Might need to check things out a little bit there, make sure that that's not going to go where we don't want it. So you can see the fuel lines ended up getting run down the driver's side, and we might end up actually swapping those and going back down the passenger side. And reason for that is just to keep the fuel pressure regulator. Might do like the Celine car and put it up in that area right up there, and that way it's just kind of hidden, tucked away more, and we'll just have it in a nice, accessible, I don't want to say stock form, but just less busy form. And you can see this car has no rust anywhere. Super, super clean. The pinch welds are beautiful. And you know, all the work on the subframe install and everything else looks really nice, very well done. Whoever welded all that in. The motor is super dry. Might have a little bit of a rear main seal leak here, which typical Foxbody stuff. It's an opportunity once the transmission is out to get that swapped over. But again, guys, everything is just super, super clean. And what do we got here? Stainless bros, mufflers, and fantastic job. Even with the hangers, pretty much bolt on. Like, this exhaust does not move. I love it. I'm pretty steady. There's no supports here, so yeah, going pretty much from the long tubes all the way back to here. I personally would like to see something here, especially since this bracket's there, but I say that's pretty damn solid. Got the lower control arms. We have, of course, the torque arm and rear set up here, which completely eliminates the upper control arms, which gives a whole array of room and possibilities for your exhaust as well, which is really nice. And coilover setup, in case you guys are wondering, we have a 275/35 out back. These are CCWs, the classics, and our Celine rear diff cover. So there you have it, guys. Nice little intro to Justin's 1990 notch project. The next video will probably be yanking out the heart and all the organs and getting ready for all the donor stuff. And should be a pretty exciting project. So let me know what you think. Comment down below. As always, thank you again for following along, especially if you're still watching now till the end. Until next time, we'll see you here on the Infamous Project.